morning. You're watching NTV Today. My name is Olive Burrows, and let's just get straight into it and look at the stories making news. Today we ask, could the Kenya Revenue Authority have been a victim of its own inaction? Turns out the issues plaguing the taxman had been discussed at length at a high-level meeting between the top management and the board of directors in December of 2018, and solutions given. Almost 6 months later, life has come full circle for the taxman as a number of its employees face court action over alleged impropriety. Ken Mijungu reports.
Faced by a myriad of challenges at the Kenya Revenue Authority, including a decline in revenue collection and management shortcomings, the taxman held a retreat for the top management and the board on the 4th and 5th of December of last year. In the meeting, matters revolving around human resource dominated the agenda. In a confidential document seen by NTV, the meeting set out to jointly identify common and recurrent challenges, brainstorm and agree on common hindrances to resolving such challenges, with the aim of ensuring synergy and team bonding between the just inaugurated board, chaired by Ambassador Francis Mudhaura, and the management team, led by Commissioner General John Njeraine. In the meeting, one of the problems identified as recurring was corruption and unethical issues, where the meeting was unanimous that corruption was a stain within the management and the board and that had permeated through the entire organization. Corruption was also identified as a major barrier to resolving the organization's problems. At the end of the meeting, it was agreed that all need to take a zero-tolerance approach. But 2 weeks ago, staff were rounded up by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, all linked to unethical practices, including corruption and bribery. A week later, a senior manager who was present at the retreat was arrested, accused of the very same issues discussed in Naivasha. But that was not all. It was also found that KRA had invested on technology that was barely being utilized. The taxman has over the years struggled to meet revenue targets and putting in place strategies to ensure minimal losses in revenue. With less than a month to go before the end of the financial year, KRA has issued another collection warning, noting that the shortfall may be as much as $500 billion shillings. In conclusion, it was noted that eradicating corruption was critical in ensuring the organization thrives. The report noted in an unerring sense that all recommended actions have a little chance of bringing about the desired results if the leaders do not, as a matter of urgency, enhance their management and leadership skills. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
The government has put on notice members of a criminal gang terrorizing and raping women in the sprawling Nyalenda slums in Kisumu. Operation Fagia Rapists from Nyalenda was launched with security organs promising to restore law and order in the area where more than 18 women have been attacked and injured in just a span of 1 month. Okukusa reports.
Alibeba kisu, nikazuia hivi, ikakata mkono hapa. Baada ya kukata hapo, akaongeza na huku na hapa.
Kanidunga hapa kisu, na alitaka kunidunga hapa, akapata masikio.
2 days after NTV highlighted the plight of women in Nyalenda slums following a spate of gang rapes and attacks, a high-powered delegation visited. Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Youth and Gender Rachel Shebesh and Kisumu County Woman Representative Rosa Buyu led a team of county officials on a fact-finding mission.
Witness. That issue of witness we are going to discuss with the police. I was thinking that before maybe you go, we need also to go and talk to our police. Because this is coming up now. Me, I was not aware of this.
The leaders came face to face with victims of a serial rapist notorious for waylaying women in the morning as they visit the toilet.
Kutoa tu hiyo panga nikasema tu vile nitamuka. Ati mimi ni muuaji. Hata ukipiga nduru, nilipiga tu nduru mara moja.
Even though police claim to have arrested more than 5 people in connection with the attacks, none of them has been arraigned.
I don't fear bond. And I don't fear judicial system ama internal security kama hawafanyi kazi ya kuprotect wa mama. Hatuwezi ongea lugha moja. Lugha yetu sisi kama ministry is to protect.
Kisumu East Deputy County Commissioner Josephine Ouko, however, assured residents of enhanced security in the coming days.
Operation ya nini? Ya kufagia rapist Nyalenda.
na tutaifanya pamoja vile tulifanya mambo ya nini waizi. Kama unajua wewe uko na fikira, hata unaweza kufikiria ati unakuwa rapist, ujue Nyalenda imekuwa ndogo sana kwako. Na kupatia onyo, hama.
Shebesh and Buyu decried what they termed as flaws in the law and called for immediate amendments of certain sections of the sexual offences laws that appeared to hinder the dispensation of justice.
We must also look at that law, because if you are a 16-year-old and you are strong enough to rape somebody else, you cease being a minor. Now you must be dealt with like a man who can rape, because you stop being a minor. If you can rape a woman who is your mother's age, you stop being a minor.
Oukokusa, NTV.
These toilets were built.
NTV Investigates on Sunday went into the world of child adoptions and exposed the rot in the system where lawyers, police and the courts flout the laws on adoption and guardianship. Child welfare experts now say the increasing demand for children to adopt and the cracks in the system expose the children to the risk of trafficking and psychological trauma, and it also fuels cases of theft at birth.
The case of baby Edward, who was given up for adoption upon claims that his mother neglected him and highlighted by NTV, is just a snapshot of a bigger portrait of vicious custody battles that expose the irregularities and disregard for procedure in the process of adopting and guardianship. The Little Angels Network, an adoption agency, is said to have given up the baby for adoption to Charles Omanga and Wesheke without tracing the relatives, as the mother was in police custody.
Family tracing and reunification should happen in all cases of children, regardless of whether the child is abandoned or orphaned or whichever other category the child finds themselves in.
Okay.
So either way, even if it was abandonment, then if family tracing had been done, we would have then not found the families. But had it been done comprehensively, then we would have found who the parents are.
The police officers who handled the two cases seem to have not done due diligence and providing accurate documents to ensure the right procedure for adoption was followed.
The institutions, right from the police, the children homes, the adoption societies, the courts, the lawyers, some of them have actually formed cartels. And since the demand is more than the supply of the children who are required for adoption, parents have been losing children through theft, switching in hospitals, and sometimes I don't want to say that this is what happened in the first particular case. There's a possibility that that was actually just something that was planned.
It is estimated that for every 6 Kenyans wishing to adopt a child, only 1 child is available for adoption. It is thus no wonder the process is marked by anomalies and flouting of rules. According to adoption experts, the cracks in the systems have left behind battered families and exposed children to the danger of trafficking and psychological turmoil. Hence the government's move to put a ban on inter-country adoption.
Our role is to make sure that those loopholes are filled, so that the system is foolproof. And anybody in between who wants to tamper with the system, whether they're children officers or lawyers, must be dealt with.
There are now calls to strengthen regulations set down to adoption, guardianship and fostering in the country. Eunice Omolo, NTV.
The High Court has temporarily suspended the directive that banned celebrities from participating in gambling advertisements. The ban that was to take effect on the 30th of May had been put in place by the Betting Control and Licensing Board. At the same time, Interior CS Fred Matiang'i said the government will revoke the work permits of foreigners who applied to conduct other businesses but ended up in the betting industry. NTV's Sharon Baranga reports.
The meeting between Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and investors in the betting and gaming industry was meant to discuss the rules that will streamline the industry, the amendment of the gaming bill and the revised regulations.
If people applied for different papers and then they ended up in gambling, I would like them to leave the country today. I would like to sign all those deportation orders today, so that those who are affected leave the country tonight.
Matiang'i says the betting and gaming companies owed the government some 26 billion shillings in taxes. Another issue that came up from the meeting, which is also in the draft bill, is the importance of public protection, and this includes the people who are not interested in betting, the young and the vulnerable, and those who bet by ensuring that there is no excess in gambling.
we all must obey the law, and we all must live by the law. So the era of cutting corners, is gone.
In the meantime, the High Court today temporarily suspended the directive from the Betting and Licensing Board that banned celebrities from participating in gambling advertisements in a bid to curb addiction. The ban was to take effect on the 30th of May. The government says it will ensure that betting firms fully comply with the law by the 1st of July. All firms are expected to provide proof of tax compliance by then.
You are willing to make money, go and pay for football clubs in Europe, but you don't have money to pay taxes in Kenya. And when people ask you to pay taxes, you rush to court, you get an order.
Over 90% of those who own gaming and betting firms in the country are foreigners. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
We now cross over to Homa Bay County, where Bernard Ojwang is standing by. It's expected that maritime authorities will conduct a crackdown on fishermen using illegal methods. Bernard, why is this important?
Well, Oliver, just as you said, we are here in Homa Bay County, tourist hotel, where Kenyan Maritime Authority, together with the Homa Bay County government and also Kenya Police Service, they are here ahead of tomorrow's crackdown that will be done in Lake Victoria. Some of the issues that they are discussing here, and are also as some of the issues that they are discussing here are on how to improve business in Lake Victoria, and also to people will be arrested and also taken to court so as to answer charges. Currently, we are just going to talk to one of the representatives of Kenya Maritime Authority, just to tell us what are they doing here today and tomorrow. What will they be doing? Join me here. You are here in Homa Bay today. Tell us, what are we doing tomorrow?
To state that Kenya Maritime Authority, a regulatory body under the Shipping and Maritime Affairs Department in the Ministry of Transport, we have a mandate to regulate water transport, which includes the oceans and inland water bodies. For quite some time, the authority has been sensitizing the public and other stakeholders on maritime safety. Though these efforts have been going on for the last almost 8 or so years, we have not realized any much impact on the compliance levels in Lake Victoria and also at the coastal waters.
So what's the main vision of this crackdown tomorrow?
We have intentions starting today. We are having a workshop where we're going to sensitize the enforcement agencies on the areas of the law that are supposed to be enforced. And from tomorrow, we will hit the ground and enforce these laws. We have already sensitized the public in past workshops and events. Now it is time for us to save lives in Lake Victoria and in our waters.
Are you going to do it just in Beta, or you are also targeting in other places?
This exercise is running all through the country. We are starting with 4 counties. That is Homa Bay. We are going to go to Lamu. We are going to go to Kwale and also Kisumu County. These are highlighted areas due to the numerous accidents we have been experiencing in these areas. So we are not setting these people or these counties as examples to the rest of the world or the country, but we see these areas to be very vibrant with regard to water transport sector and fisheries sector. And unless these sectors are regulated, then it will not be easy for us to govern this sector. That is governance on the aspect of the national government and also governance on the side of the county government.
So what will you be looking at when it comes to crackdown tomorrow?
We will be concentrating more on the transport, passenger transport vessels, on the use of life jackets, and the registration and licensing of vessels, mainly. We know quite a number currently are not registered, so that's why we are picking on those aspects.
You might be doing it in a daytime, and maybe in the night they will be going back to the deep waters to do their usual business. Are you going to be there till late?
Those are operational issues that would involve the enforcement agencies, and it involves us sitting together and agreeing on the best modalities on how to perform the enforcement. So I'm not currently in a position to give the details of the operations.
Well, thank you very much. You've just heard from the Kenya Marines Authority, or Maritime Authority, saying that they're here in Homa Bay County, at least ahead of tomorrow's crackdown, where they will be arresting and prosecuting those people going against the water transport rules and regulations. And also, you've heard from them saying that their main vision is to improve the business in the blue economy, as it was stated there before when President Uhuru Kenyatta said that they want to improve this sector, so as at least will be one of the major sector in promoting the economy of this country. Back to you.
Thank you, Bernard. We now cross over to Crown Plaza, where Sean Cardovelis is standing by. It is the inaugural Kenya Academy of Sports Conference, which has been running since yesterday and concludes tomorrow, whose theme is transforming the world through sports. Sean, what is happening today?
Yes, Olive, a very good morning to you from the Crown Plaza. This is the scene of the inaugural Kenya Academy of Sports Conference, which is really seeking to get stakeholders together to find a way forward for sports. The Kenya Academy of Sports has been around for a few years. It is a government initiative, and of course, really to try and put to the forefront that sports is a viable business. We see around the world how much money sports is bringing in, both from a tourism point of view, but not only that, from a business point of view. We can see the hosting of World Cups, for example, the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, plenty of big sporting events, including here we see the Safari Sevens, the Safari Rally we're seeing as a candidate event this year. The Kenya Open, we saw it as a European Tour event for the first time, and how much money that can bring to the economy. I'm proud to have with me a true legend of rugby, of course, one of the legends of Kenya Sevens rugby, but he's also on the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, Humphrey Kayange. Humphrey, if you could just come round. First of all, thank you so much. Just for those who don't know, you are on the National Olympic Committee of Kenya. Just tell us exactly what you're doing with them.
Thank you, Sean. I sit on the National Olympic Committee board as an athlete representative. Over the world, all over the world, it has become clear that on board levels you need the voice of the athletes, and you need representation from that front as well. And that was a key inclusion in the last elections that were done for the Olympic Committee. And I sit on the board together with my colleague Helen Obiri, where we represent the voice of athletes who compete at the Olympic Games.
All right, the inaugural conference organized by the Kenya Academy of Sports. Can you tell us what's happening here exactly?
Yeah, I think since I retired, I sit on the Kenya Academy of Sport Council as an independent member as well. For us, we've been talking about a workshop or a forum where we can engage our federations, engage our stakeholders, and come together and play our critical role in sports development among the youth. And this is a culmination of so many talks, so many planning during our meetings. So we finally have our first ever workshop where we invited stakeholders to come in. We invited also guys from the international fora to just come and give the best practices, experiences from their countries on how they do the development. You know, the academy is critical in terms of just ensuring we have young kids who will play in the future, will be future stars, and for us to invest in them at that level is key to a promotion of sport and ensuring we remain at the top level.
What are you hoping to achieve? This is the inaugural conference. So what are you hoping to achieve at the end of this conference after tomorrow?
I think for us, the networking that we'll have and the way forward in terms of the bonds that we build here, we're receiving a lot of feedback. We've never got a platform where we can get feedback from a lot of different minds, the brilliant minds here and guys who share what we should do, what we are not doing, and for us, that's key lessons that will help us in getting our role right. We might sit on the council or on the management and think that we are on the right path, and you're not. And this is quite clear that we always reach out and collaborate and ask out there for your stakeholders to give you their input in terms of your processes. So this will pick a few lessons from this conference. We intend to continue with our job. We have several programs running in Mukuru already and in Kibera starting soon, but that needs to go a notch higher. We're looking at the counties as well, ensuring we diversify the academies and ensure that sports development is not only in Nairobi, but we have several satellite academies doing the work as well.
I think the key thing is this is a government initiative. So whatever comes out of this, you do have a chance of translating the talk into action.
Yes, I think we're very lucky. Tomorrow we'll have Honorable Paranya coming to speak to us about devolution and sport. So we'd want the backing of the counties to ensure the development happens at that level and they push that agenda. We've seen sports officers from the counties here as well. We got yesterday one from as far as Turkana, and they're really passionate about sports development in their county. And once they take an active role in that, then it ensures that process continues without really the academy going to every other county trying to promote sport. So it's key that it's government, and you'd want the support of the government in driving any resolutions that come out from this conference, and it's good that we're already part of the government, and that should help us in terms of execution of our role.
As a former rugby player, of course, as a legend of the sport, how important for you inside is it that transition in terms of giving back to sport, going into NOC, going into the Academy of Sports?
Yeah, that's really key. Having been in sport and rugby for over 13 years, I think the transition from active playing into administration, into key roles that you can help the athletes who are in a similar position that like I was a few years back is really key, and for me it's really exciting because you're not far off from the active players. Remember, everything is centered around athletes, around young kids, around all our programs will be centered around, focus is on them. So if you have people who sit on the board who've had prior experience, I mean, you need the other board members as well who will give you policy and direction, but if you have the voice and athletes who've been through the process, it's usually a nice, refreshing, so it puts you back to line. So in boards, when you try to move away from your key roles, sometimes the voice of the athletes just shifts you back into your focus, and for me it's really exciting, and it's been a different path, but exciting because it's all in development, in promoting and ensuring that the athletes get their voice heard.
All right, okay, we can't talk to you without talking about rugby.
I knew that was
the London and Paris Sevens just around the corner. Of course, the Kenya team leaving this week for London Sevens. Flirting with relegation at the moment. Your thoughts on what's been a very, very tough season for the Sevens?
Yeah, listen, it's been a tough season. We've really gone down and tempting relegation at the moment. We've had our issues at the start of the season where the union, the board, and the players were not on the same page, and you can see just how those two, if they are not on the same page, what can go wrong, and we've seen that this season. Yes, we've got young players who stepped up to the plate and played really very well, and really proud of their achievements. But the other side is you've missed out on some senior players who still can give back to the sport. They're heading out to London. I think the team has settled. We've seen few senior players back. I know the union has been in negotiation with the other players who've not come back yet, and they've worked out something. Where they'll come back after the season or not, I'm not sure, but that's what we hear from the corridors. But yeah, London should go well for them. I think squad, it's decent. They can go out there and get results just to keep them off that relegation battle. We don't want to go down, and as a recently retired rugby player, I don't want to see the team go down, because it means all the work that I did, all the works that the likes of Benjamin and the Oscars, the guys who came before us did, goes down to the drain with issues around governance and not getting our act right. Yeah.
All right, Al, thanks very much. By the way, he's not called, his nickname is Tall, and you can see he is called Tall for a reason. Humphrey Kayange, of course, a legend of the sport, and he's also the athletes representative for NOC and also on the Kenya Academy of Sports committee as well. So thank you very much for speaking to us on NTV. And it's back to the studio, Olive.
Sean Kadovilis interviewing Tall, as he says, Humphrey Kayange, a retired rugby player. Now, we move on to a discussion this morning, and these stories will lead us right up to that. A 7-year-old boy was found murdered in the latest episode of violence in Matungu, Kakamega County, despite a security operation to rid the area of criminal elements. The Class 1 pupil at Bulimbo Star Academy was stabbed several times and left for dead, bringing the number of those who've been killed in the last 2 months to 20. Zacchaeus Masame brings us those details.
This distraught faces tale of the tormented has gripped villages in Matungu, Kakamega County. Panyako village is once again cloaked in grief. A 7-year-old was attacked and killed by unknown people last evening. Class 1 pupil Malik Wamkoya was said to be playing with his peers when he was attacked and left for dead. He was found with serious stab wounds on his abdomen. His parents are said to have been at the mosque for evening prayers at the time.
Kwa serikali wamekuja kwa sababu ya kulinda usalama, watusaidie kwa sababu haya imezidi, kwa sababu juzi ndugu yangu aliuawa pamoja na shemeji yangu, tukawa katika sikitiko kubwa sana. Paka wale hatujajua wale waliofanya kitendo kama hicho.
Ingawa wametuletea jeshi, lakini hao jeshi hatuoni wanapitia wapi. Usalama imekuwa mbaya.
Tulikuwa na mheshimiwa Matiang'i alipokuwa hapa, hata haijakwisha wiki 2 au 1, alituhakikisha ya kwamba tutakuwa na usalama kuanzia siku ile alikuwepo.
This latest attack raises questions on the effectiveness of the security operation. The operation was aimed at flashing out criminal elements behind the campaign of terror in Matungu.
Saa moja uwanga saa bado. Hata nafikiri tutaanza sasa kuuliwa tu mchana. Mtu akijua tu huyu na alima. Na ni mtu yule ambayo ni wakuua watu, hata niua.
Residents claim the GSU officers deployed to quell the violence have not been in good working terms with the local police, and criminal elements may have exploited the security loopholes. Matungu OCPD John Masili declined to comment on this most recent attack that has stirred fear among the residents of Matungu.
Zacchaeus Masame, NTV, Kakamega.
Now, that's the latest on the security situation in Kakamega County, but in line with our topic this morning, which is politicizing suspected criminality, here's a story which was filed by Brenda Wanga on Sunday on what politicians had to say on the arrest of the former sports CS Echesa and Senator Malala.
2 nights after his arrest, the Kakamega senator was allowed visitors at the Kisumu Central Police Station. Malala was amongst a number of politicians who were rounded up on Friday as the crackdown on the killings in Matungu, Kakamega intensified. The senator's defenders are now questioning the rationale behind his arrest.
Cleophas Malala demanded a question from the Ministry of Interior through the chair of the Senate Committee in charge of national security to issue a statement on the occurrences in Matungu. Things have turned around to the extent that the person who was demanding for justice for the people of Matungu has now been locked up for the concerns he had raised in relation to the violence and the killings in Matungu.
The senator further says it was wrong for the police to effect the arrest while investigations were incomplete.
This arrest is malicious, without a foundation,
Orengo's sentiments are echoed by a cross-section of political leaders who are now linking their arrest to political games.
You don't just arrest people based on rumors. The world is not built on rumors.
What is happening here is somebody is trying to make a political statement.
We hope that this process will not turn into a circus that is unending.
Other leaders also faulted the state security agencies for sleeping on the job while insecurity prevailed in the county.
Kwani hakuna ujasusi Kenya hii? What's the use of DCI office here? Mpaka minister huko ndio aende Matiang'i aende, ndio sasa watu wanaamuka na kusema kwamba waje tuone kwamba Matiang'i amefanya kazi. Na hiyo watu watapelekwa Monday. Hii ni kuangaisha hawa watu. Viongozi kuangaisha tu walale ndani, Monday wapelekwe.
The crackdown on the politicians suspected of having links to the spree of violence comes after the CS for Interior, Fred Matiang'i, visited the area last week and ordered the start of an operation aimed at weeding out the criminal elements. Aside from the senator, a former CS Rashid Echesa, an MP and an MCA have also been arrested, amongst others suspected of being involved in the gruesome killings. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Well, the fake gold scam is another incident that has been on the lips of politicians of late. But first, let's get an update on what is happening with the investigations. And that report is brought to us by Seth Olale. Now, it was expected that the DCI would pull back the curtain on the faces of the biggest masterminds of the fake gold trade in the country, but it appears we will have to wait. Sources at the DCI say the list, that also includes high-profile personalities, will be released after an operation to arrest the most wanted suspects has been conducted. Here's that report.
Jared Otieno, who was arrested last week and is being detained at the Kileleshwa police station, is among the persons of interest that detectives investigating the fake gold scam believe has a case to answer. Multiple sources close to the investigation say he played a major role in the scam, having received more than 400 million shillings from a representative of the Dubai royal family. Politician Zahir Janda is also wanted for questioning on the alleged role his company played in the whole deal. Janda is one of the persons whose names were mentioned in a leaked audio tape recording discussing the release of the 400 million shillings. Janda has since denied any involvement.
Actually, this is my first time doing the gold business, and I am actually a shareholder in the company that is alleging that is a complainant. I'm a stakeholder with 12% shares in Z Livia.
A Kenyan national who owns a charter flights company was, as at yesterday, being sought by detectives who claim one of his planes was used to ferry the consignment of gold. Another suspect, only identified as Mukiri, is being sought by detectives for impersonating Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i. Mukiri is said to have inspected a guard of honor while meeting with the royal family representative Ali Zandi in Karen after Dubai complained about the delay of the consignment. Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula is said to be among a group of senators on a trip to Hong Kong. He is expected back in the country at the end of the week. He is also a person of interest following a leaked audio that put him at the heart of the multi-million gold scandal.
Head of state on this matter. Okay. And explain to him. Yes.
Sources at the DCI say the senator would be required to immediately record a statement on the scandal upon his arrival. A politician who has served a jail term in a foreign country completes the list of high-profile suspects being sought by detectives over their involvement in the scam. Apart from the six, detectives are also pursuing other accomplices who include police officers and officials at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport believed to have aided the syndicate on numerous occasions. The DCI is expected to unveil a list of the most culpable suspects tomorrow. Detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations are still pursuing persons of interest still on the run, even as the Friday deadline for Inspector General to submit his final findings to the Director of Public Prosecution, Nuruddin Haji, who will in turn prefer charges against the most culpable suspects. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
Now, as investigators try to unmask the faces behind the fake gold trade, the politics of gold are gathering steam. Politicians allied to ODM leader Raila Odinga say he has been dragged into the circus as a diversion, as Interior CS Fred Matiang'i was the real target. National Assembly Minority Leader John Mbadi claims the DP's allies were planning to impeach Matiang'i. But as Kennedy Mureithi reports, some of the DP's allies dismissed his statement as just political noise.
The gold scam that has even dragged in top politicians, including the president, has now taken on a political dimension. At the center of the swirling allegations is the alleged involvement of ODM leader Raila Odinga in the fake gold trade. Deputy President William Ruto at the weekend stirred the pot, piling on the pressure on Odinga.
Wakatuambia hapo katikati ati wataenda Canaan yenyewe ikawa ya bandia. Saa hii watu wanauza gold, hiyo gold pia ni ya bandia.
Odinga's allies have, however, rallied to his defense, laughing off the accusations made by the deputy president and his allies.
Ruto hawezi kuzungumzia mambo ya ufisadi. If there is a con man, watu wa Kenya na kila mahali wanajua.
Earlier today, Minority Leader in the National Assembly, John Mbadi, who addressed a news conference in his office, accused the DP and his political team of targeting Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i in their onslaught. He claims the introduction of Raila's name in the scam was just a smokescreen.
The target is Fred Matiang'i. The other talks is just hot air. The point is, the fact that someone mentions a conman says that give me money, I'm going to talk to so and so, does not make that person he is referring to become a culprit.
These remarks have, however, attracted a barrage of counter-attacks from the Ruto brigade. In a statement to newsrooms, Nandi's Senator Samson Cherargei discounted Mbadi's remarks as just noise and a way of sanitizing his party leader. Honorable Mbadi should not divert attention. He should advise his party leader that the sheikh has said he wants his gold or the money. Those are the only options on the table. Senate Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen tweeted the same message, adding that those are not people to joke with unless you don't read current affairs. The deputy president, who this weekend led the spirited attacks against Odinga, today chose to steer clear of gold politics when he met governors from the coast at his current office.
When you have other things, you organize a press conference for those other things.
Each time there is an issue that shapes the public discourse, be it either on crime or corruption-related cases, the Kenyan politician has perfected the art of politicizing that matter in an effort to either derail the investigations that are ongoing or to make sure that there are backroom deals that are being made to solve that particular problem. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV in Nairobi County.
And that leads us to our topic this morning, and that is are we politicizing suspected criminality, and why, and what are the consequences of doing that? To take that conversation forward in the studio with me, I'll start with the lady. Joined by Joy Mdivo, who's the Executive Director, East Africa Center for Law and Justice. Happy to have you. And sitting next to her is Cyprian Nyamwamu, who's a Governance Advisor, Future of Kenya Foundation. Also happy to have you with us. And next to me is Steve Ogola, who says I can simply introduce him as an advocate. Steve, which other titles do you bear?
That's fine.
Advocate is fine. All right, so I'll start with you, Steve. Why do you think the fake gold scam has become such a hot political topic?
I mean, what this scandal has revealed to us is the pettiness within our political leadership. I was terribly embarrassed to see the Deputy President, none other than the Deputy President, abandoning serious executive functions to try and attempt to extract political dividend from the audio where, if I mean, from what all of us heard, is that Honorable Senator Wetangula was trying to plead with someone on the other side that he was going to ask the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and the President to intervene in the matter. He did not implicate Raila Odinga, and he didn't implicate the President in that matter. So to have the Deputy President, deepen the crisis, of perception, that is, by dragging Raila's name unnecessarily, I think that was really low and petty, and shows that he's really idle. I think he needs more work. But then number two, and even a more serious issue, what cannot be taken away is this, that actually these major scandals, corruption, is actually deep among the political elite. The entire political infrastructure, those within government and those outside government. The fact that if that audio truly represented the voice of Honorable Senator Moses Wetangula, the fact that he could drag in Raila's name to it also means that there possibly is there was a possibility that matters like this, had it not been revealed, Raila could as well have been aware. Uhuru Kenyatta could as well have been aware. And the fact that so far the principal persons that have been named, that is the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and the President, has not come out to this, not just to condemn, but also to disassociate themselves with this matter, shows that the perception that political elite, those within government and those outside government, are truly connected at a point of corruption is really depressing, because it shows that Kenya has now reinforced its reputation across the globe, that a country that is known for corruption and corrupt deals. This is it's a strong indictment on our leadership. These are the people that we intend to reverse the trend. Remember, the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index Report 2018 puts Kenya at number 144 out of 180 countries assessed. So in essence, Kenya scored 27 points out of 100%. Kenya is truly, corruption has really taken root. It's deep and wide, and it brings in everyone, including those people that are trusted to fight it. In short, Kenyans must look elsewhere on the war on graft and not rely on the political elite to support it, because they are active beneficiaries of it. Okay. Yeah.
So, as I understand it, you're saying you agree with Mbadi to the extent that dropping names in a phone call does not implicate people. No, there's an extent, I don't need to agree with Mbadi. In fact, Mbadi and the entire political elite are part of the problem. What I disagree with is this. I don't think someone at the level of the Deputy President has the liberty, to casually dramatize serious matters like this. Because there was no reason, thinking logically, objectively, and rationally, there was no reason to believe that Raila was implicated. And we saw Deputy President trying to extract political dividend from it. That was wrong. That must be documented as unacceptable. However, having said that, the entire political infrastructure, the entire political elite, both Jubilee politicians and NASA politicians, the fact that this matter implicates Honorable Senator Moses Wetangula itself, even without including Raila and Uhuru to it, and the fact that corruption in government is deep, just tells Kenyans that, listen, you're not going to rely on the political elite from either side to support the one graph, because they benefit from it. Those are two separate issues, but equally depressing in their own depth. Okay. Yes. So basically, Steve is echoing some sentiments he shared on Twitter yesterday at about 1:21 p.m., saying DP Ruto is quickly establishing his reputation for pettiness. Honestly, you'd have to stretch common sense to breaking points to see how an all-time busy deputy president can create time to extract political dividend from the fake gold scandal by implicating Raila's name. Do you agree with him? Do you disagree? The handle is at NTV Kenya. His handle is at Steve Ogola W. Joy, I'll pose the same question to you that I posed to Steve, which is, why do you think this has become such a hot political topic, this whole fake gold scam?
It's a hot political topic because of who's involved in it. On the face of it, you'd think that Honorable Wetangula has been ousted as a majority leader in the Senate and is fallen out with Honorable Raila, and they cannot be on speaking terms. But if the clip turns out to be legitimate, because I think that's what's still being investigated, is this clip legitimate, and he's dropping names like that, then it would mean, if he's to be believed on a subliminal level, I believe him, if he's to be believed, then all politicians, like Steve says, are sleeping on the same bed and eating from the same plate when it comes to fiscal benefits. When it comes to money, they think the same. We saw that when they were passing the house allowances. There was no hitch up with the quorum that day. There was no walkout. There was no maybe, Mr. Speaker, this might be something we shouldn't do. No, everybody kept very quiet in the Senate and in the National Assembly, and they took home their 2.5 million quite happily, not caring that a few short months ago, Kenyans were literally dying because of hunger. And so they Marie Antoinette us and they eat cake when we've got nothing to eat ourselves. So that tells me one thing that is, like Steve says, is a tragedy. And for me, I think it's Kenya, we have an unmitigated disaster. About 10, no, not even 10 years ago, let's say about 20 years ago, parliamentarians earned what? 25, 30K?
73,000.
Yes, and a few little benefits on top. And their children came to school with us. We shared schools with their children. They drove regular cars. I remember one politician who's now a governor, and used to drive, you know, a bit up Old Renault when we would go for little CS. So that time, Cyprian and I were like little young tucks when we were cutting our teeth in politics. And you'd go for these meetings, and these guys would arrive in regular cars in the parking lots. They were just normal wananchi. They were part of our society. Now politicians are a privileged class. And once you're privileged, then that which affects your people is no longer your concern, it's no longer your problem. That's why you have the luxury of driving through traffic and moving everybody out of the way so that you don't have to sit in the same traffic. Why is the gold scam such a political hot button? It's because it's exposing the underbelly of our politicians. It's showing up their nakedness. It's telling us, you know what, in public they're one thing, but in private they're another thing. Why is it a hot button issue? Is because these are the same people who've been saying we support the president in the fight against corruption. Honorable Raila comes and says, I support the handshake because we are fighting corruption. Next thing you know is Honorable Wetangula is implicating them in corruption. And anybody, like I'm an advocate and I'll tell you, I actually have a matter that I was handling of a foreigner who was swindled in the very same way. Gold. He transferred money, hit an account in Kenya, and he hung around here for a few, and went back home empty-handed and in a lot of debt. So when I hear the gold scam, I know it's not a far-fetched idea. People are being scammed every day. And the nature of this scam is such that you need collaboration from immigration, from KRA, you need collaboration from, now you saw like the smelting, the what. It's an entire outfit. Look at where these factories are situated. It's in upmarket places. It's not in the back street of Kayole. That tells you that this is something, people are not just happy to scam Kenyans, not just scamming internationally. And I agree with Steve. It's a scourge on us as a society that our leaders are the least trustworthy people that you can function with. And it's a shame. It's a crying shame.
Okay. Cyprian, I'll come back to you to get your sentiments on that. But we cross over to Mtwapa in Kilifi, where Kevin Mutai is presently situated. He's with border riders and squatters who are complaining of a land grabbing.
Well, we are coming to you live from Kijiji area in Mtwapa, that is in Kilifi County, where this morning police officers from Mtwapa Police Station executed what they say an order from a businessman who wanted to evict squatters whom he claims that has been settling on his property. It is a 2-acre piece of property in this particular area, and residents are very angry with him, saying that they've been living in this particular area for a very long time. And as you can see, they're milling around and the very agitated. On the other side, there are police officers who've barricaded the road, blocking the residents to access that particular property. And of course, on this other side, also residents are milling and used stones, and of course also burning various trees, and also barricading the other side of the road. And they've created like an area. The police are on the other side and residents are on the other side. They're facing each other, but we are told that it is a property that is in contention, a 2-acre property in Mtwapa, and residents are very angry. They're saying that the businessman who is claiming the property used unscrupulous means. But police on the other side are saying that they are executing an order and they did due diligence on the same piece of land to ensure that that what they're engaging themselves into is what actually they need to execute according to the law. They are saying that they did their search, and they claim that the person who is purporting to own that particular property has a title deed, but that is what the residents of this particular area are very angry about, and they're contesting that particular case, or rather matter. And I'll just like quickly to speak to them to tell us why are they angry and to listen to their grievances. Kwanza kabisa jitambulishe kwa majina, waitwa nani, alafu tueleze ni nini kimekuleta hapa.
Mimi kwa majina naitwa Hamis Mohamed, mimi ni mkazi wa ile eneo la Shimo la Tewa. Kitu cha kwanza kabisa kabla sijaongea, mimi ningependa kujua hatma ya MCA wetu, yuko pale ndani, wamemshika wakampiga makofi na yuko pale ndani. Sasa sisi kama raia tunataka kujua hatma yake, bila hivyo nafikiri watatuua sote. Kwa sababu sisi sasa hivi tukimaliza kuzungumza na nyinyi tutaenda pale. Sasa kitu ambacho kinaendelea hapa, askari wamekuja hapa mida saa 12. Wakiwa askari wengi sana, karibu askari 100. Hata naona hizo police station hazina watu. Wamekuja hapa, watoto wa shule ni saa zao za kwenda skuli, watu nao ni saa zao za kwenda makazini. Wamefunga hii barabara. Wamefunga barabara kule mwisho mpaka hapa. Hakuna area ya kupita. Na sehemu ambayo inapiganiwa si kwenye barabara, ni pale ndani. Wangelinda ile eneo la pale ndani ili kazi zingine nao ziendelee. Ushasikia? Sasa wamepiga watu 2 risasi akiwa mtoto wa shule. Wakiwa mtoto wa shule, na kuna wengine ambao wanazidi kupigwa risasi, wamepata majeraha na wamepelekwa hospitali. Sasa kama huyu bwenyenye amekuja na title na over 50 years mtu amejenga pale pahali, anaishi pale pahali 50 years amejenga, yeye alikuwa wapi? Na kama amekuja wakati huu na iko nafasi ya kuwa pengine ni lazima apate pahali, ziko njia za kuwa anaweza kukaa na watu wakaongea, ziko sheria, wako viongozi katika hii maeneo. Kuna MCA, kuna mbunge, kuna governor na senator, women rep na viongozi wengineo ambao tunaweza kaa chini na tukasuluhisha hili nambo. Na kama kweli hili sehemu lake, kwa nini aje na askari na bunduki na apige watu risasi zile live bullet ziko hapo?
Polisi wanasema kwamba wamepewa amri na mahakama kuweza kutekeleza. Well, I can see they are a little bit rowdy, and I don't think I can continue speaking to them. But as you heard that particular resident saying that they are really angry and they don't want that particular businessman to invade that particular land. They're saying that some of them have been living there for almost 50 years now, and they are not, or rather they are upset by the decision of police officers this morning to come to this particular area, claiming that they are executing an order that wanted them to evict from that piece of land. We are still following up on this story, and I'm sure we'll be having more information on what will be cropping up, and we'll be updating our viewers as soon as we get the updates. Back to you in studio.
Evidence that land matters in Kenya are extremely emotive. Kevin Mutai stays on that story. And we go back to another hot button topic, and that is the question of the fake gold scam and its politicization. And we've heard from Steve Ogola, who's in studio with me, who's an advocate, and Joy, who's an Divo, who is also an advocate. And now we hear from Cyprian, who's a governance, should I call you what? Analyst?
He's an expert.
Governance, wait, there's something he told me to. He sent me something, let me just confirm. Yes, governance advisor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Cyprian,
Thank you, Olive.
who's a governance advisor. Cyprian, I asked Steve, I asked Joy, why the whole fake gold scam subject has become such a hot political topic. In your estimation, why is that?
Because the media has made it a hot topic. The media in Kenya for the last 5, probably 10 years, does not ask the right questions. When a story like this comes out, we do not ask the right questions. We go to the people who have an interest, and we start to ask them. We give them the floor, the platform to speak. Olive, in every country, there is what we call the pecking order. In terms of power arrangement in this country, there is the President of the Republic of Kenya, and then there is the Director of Public Prosecutions. That is the second most powerful person in the Republic of Kenya. The Director of Public Prosecutions. He can arrest and charge anybody, including the Chief Justice, the Deputy President, everybody, apart from the President, is accessible to the Director of Public Prosecutions for prosecution if there is evidence that criminality has happened. So I'm speaking from a purely governance approach. The media needs to ask the correct questions. For example, Olive, there was some gold, some money in dollars and things that were found in Ruiru 2 months ago. Where are those guys who were found with billions of money, which was called fake? We don't know whether it was fake or not. Where are those people? In whose house was that money found? You see, when the media does not ask the correct questions, then the wrong guys feature. The media in this country has helped what in English literature we used to call scam rising to the top. Scam has risen to the top in this country because the correct questions are not asked. And in concluding my submission, Olive, I want to say that there's what we call the criminal justice system, which starts with the investigation, goes to the prosecution, tried in the judiciary, and one sentence has been passed, people are taken to corrective institutions. In between, there's what we call witness protection, and so on and so forth. And the victims of crimes, compensation and systems like those. In this country, the criminal justice system has broken down completely. And we are not asking the correct questions in terms of where is the intelligence at the investigative level? Where is the prosecutor with the evidence? What is the justice system in terms of the judiciary doing about this criminality in this country? When we do not focus the spotlight on the criminal justice system, which has broken down, what happens is that we give the floor to the politicians to do their business, which is to politics.
So are you saying all this political rhetoric around the issue is a diversion?
It's a complete diversion. You see, there is something we call what you feed is what grows. So in this country, we like feeding pettiness, which is what Steve was talking about. We do not go to the substance of any matter. We do not touch the substance of any matter. Even this matter, I can tell you for free, it's going to go. Why? Because the criminal justice system in this country is dead, is broken down completely. There's a lot of PR, but you know, PR can only go far, only so far. A time comes when PR can't serve it. If the criminal justice system in Kenya is broken down, this is the outcome. It is a failed state. If the criminal justice system does not work, you are a failed state. That's why the president looks helpless. With all the instrument and power that he has accessible to him, the president cannot move the country forward because the criminal justice system is broken down. And that's what characterizes what we call failed states. When you catch somebody in Gilgil who has received 60 million shillings to her account for supplying air, where is that story today? It's nowhere. She's walking around all over the place. A few years ago, we were told about NYS money and how somebody went and picked 80 million shillings from a bank at 2 a.m. in the morning, and they gave the driver 60 million shillings loan. Where is that story? It's dead. The criminal justice system in Kenya is totally broken down and dead.
Okay,
that's the problem.
Cyprian has delivered quite the indictment on the criminal justice system. I see Steve pulling out the big guns by way of the Constitution. When we come back, the question then is this political rhetoric, you say it serves as a diversion, is that deliberate, or are these politicians being sincere? discussing the politicization of suspected criminality. I'm joined by Joyum Divo, Steve Ogola, an advocate, and Cyprian Nyamwamu, who's a governance advisor. Steve, I'll come back to you. Based on the comments you all made, is it then deliberate, this political rhetoric around these issues, like let's take the gold scam for instance, is it intended to back the DPP into a corner? Is it intentional?
You see, politicians keep on sending mixed signals, and I say with a lot of disappointment that I don't think they have the liberty to approbate and reprobate support the DCI at the same time. If you contradistinguish, if you place side by side what politicians are saying in regard to the gold scam or scandal and vis-a-vis the arrest of Malala, on one hand, you are trying to you're supporting investigative agencies. On the other hand, you are accusing them of being open to manipulation. What politicians are telling us is
so you're speaking from both sides of the mouth.
Yes, yes. I don't think you know. The problem in this country is that politicians have no capacity to take Kenyans seriously. And I don't think Kenyans also have not also expressed that anger to such level as to reject, you know, open manipulation or attempts by the political elite to disrespect ordinary Kenyans, and I mean the right-minded Kenyans, that is. The thing is this, insofar as the investigations are concerned, the investigative agencies, the DCI, should only be responsive to the Constitution and the people of Kenya, because that is the people they are accountable to. The DPP, through his prosecutorial mandate, they're supposed to make decision to charge based on evidence available, not being able, they should not be open to external stimuli or manipulation. They shouldn't be responsive to external stimuli or political stimuli, that is, so that they weigh who is saying what and they react to it. There's something that Cyprian said, and I agree with him fully. We are more reactive and we are not deliberate in our actions. I mean, who even frames this as a scandal? I think the media, once they frame this thing as a scandal and then it's heightened, there's a buzz around it, and then there's not a logical follow-up. In between, the DPP, you know, gets sucked in the system. They release press statements. We're investigating this, and then after about a week or so, the story has been killed, or maybe significantly, or maybe conveniently, you know, replaced by another story that is emerging. And then so we are kept in we're always chasing the tail in terms of, so we don't have a stable and steady focus on whatever is happening in the country. What I'd like to tell Kenyans is this: never put emphasis on political commentaries by the elite, the political elite. Don't de-emphasize what politicians tell us, because politicians look at things through their own, the political lenses are framed by convenience. If it is convenient to stand by Wetangula, fine, they will do so. If it is convenient to stand by Matiang'i, they will do so. If it is convenient to stand by, surprisingly, even in the future, by Deputy President William Ruto, they will do so. They don't necessarily imagine that their role is to protect public interest, which is what the Constitution has ordained. Number two, the President is also not as proactive as the Constitution may have wished him to be. You get? Because you see, even in terms of investigation, there's what you're calling criminalization, politicization of criminality, which means cheapening investigative processes, and that's wrong. But there's also what you're calling politicization of the judicial process, which means sabotaging active investigations to extract political dividend from it, which is equally wrong. I think if people stuck to their mandate, my reading of the Constitution, I think this is the first time I do a lot of public education, civic education on media. This is the first time I've seen a Constitution being supplied to panelists. It's really nice and commendable. What the President has to do within the framework of the law is to assess. I said in my first opening comment that Kenya is struggling with corruption because it's deepening, it's widening. We are at number 144 out of 180. That's really a sad state of affairs, and we're talking about public sector corruption. Within the framework of the Constitution, under Article 132, Sub-Article 2, see who appoints the cabinet secretaries is the President. See who appoints the principal secretary is the President. See who appoints the chief legal advisor, the Attorney General is the President. The Constitution permits the President to appoint and fire anybody who lowers the perception that anybody who, even in terms of perception, is undermining the war on corruption. That is called political accountability. He can fire them without necessarily implicating them in terms of criminal culpability. I don't think Kenyans have understood the distinction between political accountability, which means the right to hire and fire to preserve the reputation of a government that is serious on their own graft, as against criminal culpability, which means the DPP, the mandate that Stephen was talking about, the mandate to investigate, the mandate to prosecute offenses based on evidence, and then later on, if found guilty, you'll be convicted accordingly. Criminal culpability political accountability need not to await completion of criminal process. Political accountability simply says the buck stops the president as the head of the executive, and corruption is steeped in the executive. I will fire and reorganize according so that Kenyans can see that if it depends on me to nominate and appoint, I can also fire without referring the criminal process. Okay. Now, on the judiciary, I'm always hesitant because I'm a practicing advocate. I'm always hesitant to blame the judiciary on their own corruption because of one thing. It appears to me that the Director of Public Prosecution is, to a certain extent, responding to political pressure, especially from the executive, to quicken the war on graft. So a scandal breaks, they arrest, they arraign, but then they don't have evidence. I'm handling a matter that has taken the DPP more than 90 days to put the evidence together. You get? And the Defense Counsel will certainly need a lot of time to also equally interrogate that evidence and see if they're ready for trial. So as you can see, if a matter was people arraigned in court, let's say in December last year, trial has not taken off, not because the court is not sitting, not because lawyers are not attending court, because the DPP is organizing itself. You get? They will not come back and explain to Kenyans that we are still organizing ourselves. I think what they could reflect on is this. How about investigate quietly? Put this evidence quietly, together. Then, when you arrest and arraign, you already have much of the evidence you're looking for. And then the trial can commence quickly. Because I think judges also and magistrates generally cannot unnecessarily delay prosecution if the state is ready to prosecute. But even if you say we want expeditious prosecution of corruption-related offenses, how do you proceed if the state itself has not assembled the evidence? That's what I'm saying, that they should be careful not to be lured or not to be tempted to respond quickly to political pressure. Okay. I think for me, those are some of the issues that are emerging, which have not been conclusively addressed.
Okay, how do you view the DP statements where this fake gold scam is concerned? He talked about this fake Canaan, and now there's this fake gold. Evidently, this man is a con man, and then he was like, leave the president out of it. Keep the president out of your shenanigans, so to speak. First of all, do you regard his comments as being sincere? And then second of all, are you in agreement with Steve that it could be a case of making hay while the sun shines? Because they always have these exchanges, the DP and Raila, and Raila calls him the high priest of corruption. The DP calls him Mchawi. So is it just now a case of now Ruto has found the opportunity to now point the finger at Raila and say, aha, now you've been caught with your hand in the cookie jar?
Which is what also we saw with Honorable Mbadi and Honorable, what's his name? Senator Orengo. It's the political banter. And if in the DP's shoes, I'll do exactly the same. I mean, you guys always poking your finger in my soup. It's my turn to poke my finger in yours, and I am happy to return the favor, and in equal measure. The big question, though, I think we should be asking ourselves is what this is symptomatic of. This is symptomatic of politicians who, like Steve says, they don't take the populace seriously. So they imagine that whatever tripe we throw their way, they're going to accept it. And when I heard the DP's comments, I smiled because I looked, I was like, you know what, this Canaan story is never going to die, apparently. But if you look at it more deeply, when Honorable Mbadi's comment, and that's what we're saying, what I was commenting to my brethren here when we were off air, when I had Mbadi's statement, whereas before I was flippant about DP Ruto's comments, when Honorable Mbadi came out, I was like, okay, wait a second. Amongst these people, is there something that we ought to know that we do not know about? When you have politicians and they can make political mileage out of something, they always will. They will not hesitate to make political mileage out of whatever situation it is. And that's what we saw the DP doing. But over and above that, like I said earlier, it's a mixture of these people in the same bed. So they have to do things together, as they always have. There's a point that Cyprian made, though, that I want to just buttress a little bit about the investigative journalism. If you remember, was it last year but one? This celebrated Ghanaian investigative journalist, Anas Anas, and the expose that he did on the FIFA corruption. That is not a story that took 1 day or 2 days to put together. It was an entire operation. There was entrapment, there was snaring, there was following through, there was investigation. That is something no media house in Kenya has taken to be like a major department, because it takes money and nobody is going to sponsor that. You're not going to see Coca-Cola lining up to give you sponsorship for investigative journalism. That has to be part of the CSR from the media people to go ahead and just follow a story beyond the headlines. Then coming up back to us, okay, I don't practice in the law courts as much as Steve does, so let me take a swipe at judiciary, because now this is a collective problem. Judiciary, I have said here before, and I will repeat it again, is being used to sanitize the unsanitary. So what you find is, because of the principle of double jeopardy, if I know I'm in this quagmire, I sort of allow myself to be arrested and allow myself to be arraigned, knowing that the evidence will be too weak to withstand the rigor of beyond reasonable standard. In the end of it, I'm acquitted. And once I'm acquitted, then in the eyes of the law, I cannot be tried again for that situation unless something totally brand new comes to light. Brand new sometimes means happened after the fact. By that time, I'm wise enough to keep my tracks well hidden, so that the judiciary is used to sanitize and to clean. And that's why we saw people's names being expunged from reports after a judicial process. And yet, if you look at the fingerprints of the crime scene, the fingerprints of family there. Same with lawyers. If you go to some like this fake gold scam, you are told that the documents were legal, they were properly drafted. You look at it, means somebody somewhere collected fees to help somebody to perpetuate this madness. So it's not just the politicians who are benefiting out of all this madness. We are all guilty of, in fact, we are happy with the politicization, because all the other shadowy figures are hiding behind what is going on with this gold scam. But over and above that, for me, the tragedy of it all is now this is an opportunity again for people to get away with rape, murder, and manslaughter. And the effect of that is the Kenyans already jaded by what's happening in the country, become even more demoralized. They become even more disaffectionate. We have young people now are like, why should I bother vote? By the time we are coming to the 2022 elections, by the time we are coming to the future, young people will be looking at us 2027, why should I vote? Am I bothering to vote? For who? This same old, and that is for me the biggest tragedy, because the soul of this nation is dying before our very eyes. And I wish politicians would stop playing games with our lives and just deal with it. Like Steve says, what the president can do without needing to resort to a DPP, let him go ahead and do it. DPP and DCI, I did not add them in my little shame list. DPP and DCI are also failing us, because we have seen situations where the DCI has been very quick to even expose what they're doing. I'm glad this time they're telling us we'll hold on to the list until we have a bit more detail. Because before, I used to look and I'm like, how on God's green earth are you giving us that information now? If you're still investigating and people know I'm catching Steve and I know I work with Steve, I go into hiding, catching me. I'm glad they're putting some thought in the process. DPP as well. Look at how many cases he has had to withdraw in shame because he's saying, I don't have enough evidence. I'm glad now he's taking the time to put together enough evidence, because if the DPP and the DCI fail at the investigative stage, then at the judiciary they assist criminality. So in this case, politicians are at the front of muddying the waters, but the rest of us, the players, one of the chorus singers and the stage managers, we're helping them put up this production. So we all need to introspect and find out what role am I playing and to start shutting this thing down.
Okay. We've also been joined by the Nandi Senator, Samson Cherargei, who's made several comments, both on the Matungu killings and on the fake gold scam. I think yesterday you sent a press release to newsrooms talking about telling Buddy that they shake either wants his gold or his money. But before I come to you, Cyprian,
yes,
these comments that are made, for example, around the Matungu killings and comments made around the fake gold scam by politicians, first of all, are they in some instances, like as Joy said, meant to back the DPP into a corner where you're like, prematurely try your case? So at the time, by the time we're going to court, I mean, he's been forced to rush into taking that step, and so he's not ready, and therefore the case collapses on account of weak evidence. That would apply, I would take it to the Matungu situation, but also as politicians get this or attempt to gain this political mileage out of the fake gold scam. As I asked about DP William Ruto, as Steve said as well, yes, he'll gain this political mileage, but isn't it a disservice at the end of the day to the Kenyan? Because how would we get to the truth when all the waters are being muddied by politicians?
Let me make 3 very quick points. The first point is that politicians love adrenaline. They love to be arrested. They love to be in the media.
It makes them heroes.
That is what their stuff is made of. And so therefore, anywhere where there's controversy, you will see Senator Cherargei, because that is when he features in the media. And that is how his voters elect him. That is the raw material that politics is made of, not just in Kenya. The President of the United States of America tweets every 3 hours. He comments about who has frustrated the daughter in some mall or something like that. Politicians all over the world love visibility. So when they hear that there is some interesting stuff around the gold, they have to go there. Senator he has just come in. Yesterday I watched him on TV. You would imagine that he was actually seated with the sheikh himself, because he told us that the sheikh said he either wants his money or the gold. And I was like, I saw him in Nandi. How did he get to the sheikh? So that is what politicians love. That's the first point. The second point is what I said earlier, which is this, that what we feed is what grows. Now, Olive, the people of Kenya like to vote for controversial politicians, corrupt politicians. What else do they like? They generally love bad boys. So because we love bad boys, even the good politicians and leaders have had to look for a way of becoming bad boys, so that you capture the general spirit, which is with the voters. So the problem, and Joy has been speaking about it, is that the Kenyan people will not be respected until they respect themselves. Martin Luther King used to say that you will never be respected until you respect yourself. You can never be loved until you love yourself. There are some things that we have to do as the people of Kenya for us to be taken seriously. Like, for example, when we open our doors in churches and every public place to invite people who are, they realize that the only way you are going to be invited, be given the front pew, is if you are going to be in these controversies. The third and last point, which stems from the conversation that we have been having, is the question you are asking whether they are putting this pressure so that the DPP can act one way or the other. That's not the primary intention of politicians. I've told you what politicians want. Politicians want to speak to their constituency so that their constituency can re-elect them. So that is their business. I want us to bring this to the definition of political science that I was taught by my lecturers at the University of Nairobi. The state is like a cattle dip. Every animal should go in and come out through the other side. In Kenya, the state is so broken, there are some animals which say, I am not going into the deep. So they have ticks and fleas and everything else which they are spreading. Why? Because they have known that the state is broken and they can refuse to go in. So there are people in this country who have refused to go into the deep. That's why the law that my brother Ogola was showing you has no meaning to them. We have to return sanity to the Republic of Kenya so that everybody is under the law, is subjected to the law of this land.
Okay.
And this can only happen if we recover institutions and reduce personality. That's a strong point.
All right.
Because this country is run on the basis of handshakes. is run on the basis of wedding meetings. This country is run on the basis of side shows, on funeral utterances. Until we formalize governance in this country, and that's a key point that I really want to insist on, because where governance is informal, like in Kenya, you are going to die. Because parliament does not function, the judiciary does not function, the DPP does not function, the police do not function until so and so are said, move now. We must rise above informality and establish a state that is governed by formal institutions that subject everybody to the law. That is the only way the rule of law and due process is attainable. Without that, we will be dealing with rumors, stories, rallies, funeral statements, and all that. And that is the way to doom. And as you can see, the country is successively retrogressing and breaking down. Every working year, we are getting worse than we were the previous year.
All right, Cyprian, I'm tempted to give you a pulpit. Senator, thank you very much for making the time to join us this morning. You've got a bit of basically, I think, what Joy and Cyprian had to say on the political class. So first of all, my first question to you is, I heard you speaking on the arrest of the former sports CS, Echesa. Do you not trust the system? Was it necessary for you to speak outside the police station in his defense?
Thank you very much, and my apologies for coming late. I want to begin from where my colleagues has left. Interestingly, I'm told women like bad boys, so it's not only in politics. the politics, but if you look at some of us who have been elected, it is very wrong to include all of us. That some of us, if you look at my track record, it is very clean, and also I have not been associated with any controversies. And I know of many leaders who have not been. Secondly, I don't trust the system because, as Joy said, is that the investigative agencies have perfected the art of prosecuting very serious cases through sensationalization in media and social media. And we remember when the fight against corruption began, they were shouting headlines that you thought they have nabbed. And I heard even the DPP at that time says it does not go for fishing. It will be doing whaling around. But up to now, those major cases have gone quiet and silent, and we are seeing just investigations. And when I visited the former CS Rashid Echesa in Nandi Hills police station, interestingly, there were no charges that were preferred against him. And you had the police, even the police received him in the evening and said the investigations that had been done are yet to be conclusive. Yet, and even when they released Senator Cleophas Malala, the issue is that the system in itself should separate between the politics and the crime. But you realize the people who are in charge of security investigation are now politicizing crime. And that is why, in as much as we are praying and we empathize and sympathize with the people of Matungu over the killings that is happening day and night, the investigative agencies have reduced themselves to playing crime with politics. Because they say, let us arrest somebody from NASA, let us arrest Rashid Echesa because of his political leanings, because it is known, it is in the public domain of supporting his as the deputy president. And when you look at all these issues, the investigative agencies, especially the DCI, has not been very keen in getting to the bottom matter of this issue. Because if they write in a newspaper and say, the M-Pesa has shown that one of the influential politicians has been sending 150,000, who is this person? Why are they not arresting him? So I think they were just playing to public gallery, and I can tell you, if the killings in Matungu ongoing, I can tell you we might not get who the real culprits is. And therefore comes the question that even as the DPP is an independent institution, they should not allow himself to be controlled, as my brother says, Cyprian, through funeral statements, through press conferences. They should work within what the law has provided for them. And as politicians, as he has said, we have our game. And I can assure him that as the leadership of this country, we have absolute trust of Kenyans, because we exercise the trust that has been bestowed unto us, which is that we exercise indirectly on behalf of the many Kenyans who are voting. And I hope the investigative agencies are listening to this, even on the issue of fake gold, in the issue of corruption, because even the issue of fake gold, they are now trying to divert their attention. And the Sheikh has been very clear. There are only two options on the table. Either the original gold or the money back, not the fake, of course, so that we are risking a lot of issues, Olive, because we are risking a lot of diplomatic road that is we headed. And the Sheikh is not batting an eyelid because there's a lot of money. And we hope, let us not, in fact, what we have already said is that let us allow the investigative agencies to prosecute this matter to the conclusive end. And if you have been mentioned, I heard the last time, you remember, even when this corruption was running around, it was being spiral, Kamata Fridays, people were making statements saying, if you have been mentioned, you should be investigated. If in this case, some names, and I've heard somebody defending them said it was just name dropping, that even that audio of my colleague must be authenticated and be told, why is that the name of Interior CS has been mentioned? Why is the name of former Prime Minister has been mentioned? And I always insisted, because I am one of the few leaders who oppose this handshake. It translated from handshake to handshake. It is now golden shake. So all this, it shows that this handshake was being brought not to bring on board Kenyans, because you cannot say we are building bridges, as I conclude. You cannot say you are building bridges, yet you are banning others and building walls, because I expected this handshake was for all Kenyans. But when you bring handshake and want to profile either ethnically or politically or in any affiliated form some of the leaders by saying, we are in handshake and we want to bring Kenyans together, but when you reach some point you say, no, we don't want to add so and so into this handshake, then it becomes a commercial venture.
Mheshimiwa, now you've managed to get me, Joy, and Cyprian to crack a few smiles, but Steve is totally unamused, and I can understand where he's coming from. My question to you is this. You've talked about this, the handshake has turned into the golden handshake, basically.
The golden shake.
Golden shake. So, I mean, don't we risk trivializing the issue if we reduce it to that, if we reduce it to this being around about the handshake politics?
But because you can realize the intention of a handshake, as always, the people who came through the handshake, and the president has meant well for this country. The president has been on course that he wants to achieve the Big Four agenda. If you look even where the party I sit in parliament, the Jubilee Party, our main foundation has been to bring a united country. But we realize our partners who came through the handshake came through intimidation and coercion. And they are saying, if you have heard some of their supporters, like the Kotu Secretary General, that if you don't do an handshake, the country will never be united, there will be violence. So it is a way of intimidating. It was never done in good faith. If it was done in good faith, I can tell you, there would be no walls that are being built, there would be no bridges that are being burned. But because of some specific interest, and that is why, even the government of today, the democracy allows that the majority have their way and minority have their say. It doesn't mean if particular section or particular leader wins, you must come through pretense of the handshake to go and relaunch some projects that the government has been relaunched and intimidating some contractors, simply because, and so there are so many evidences on this, simply because you are enjoying on the handshake that you have translated into commercial venture. And that is why finally, as I conclude, when they have realized they have been caught, because they are the people, when the corruption allegations were flying around the country, they were quick to point fingers at others. But when they are being mentioned, they bring diversional tactics by saying it is not even about the fake gold scandal. It is about impeachment of Matiang'i, but which is as fake as the gold itself.
So my issue is this, Mheshimiwa. If we make it about the handshake, we lose the bigger picture, because it seems to me like this is more about embarrassing the opposition than getting to the truth of the matter.
But that is why now I want to agree with Joy. We want the DCI to expeditiously conclude the investigation into this matter. And even every Kenyan, even as we sit, even the Wanjiku at home, they want to know what really happened. What happened to Sheikh? That a Sheikh was brought into this country, he was being conned, that they would get a gold. And those are the DCI questions the DCI should answer. I've seen the statement by DPP, and he's telling us that we should not discuss this issue. It is them who has been making us discuss some of these issues through press releases, through sponsored headlines on issues of corruption. So they should be the ones telling the country, because we have given them the resources. The DCI, in fact, has been improved by His Excellency the President. There is more allocation to the DCI than ever before. So they should be telling the country So that even we don't use speculation, they should be telling what really happened in the facts called scandal. We want to know also on corruption cases. We want to know what happened in some of the major crimes that are happening, like Matungu killings, like one we have in Mombasa. And I had opportunity as the chair of JLAC to be in Mombasa to listen to some of the allegations of sponsored extrajudicial killings, both in Kisumu and in Mombasa. Those are the questions that DCI and other investigative agencies should be telling us.
Okay, Steve, I want to give you occasion to respond to the senator.
I don't think there's clarity of thought. I mean, with due respect to Senator Cherargei, who's my friend and classmate, in school together, at the university. He is approbating independence of investigative arms and also reprobating it at the same time, cheapening the discourse, trying as much as possible to extract political dividend, which I said that, and he's an elected leader, you know, there's a whole difference between Cherargei and myself. This is a state officer. I personally, as an advocate, I feel I have some residual obligation for dispassionate, objective, beneficial analysis. I'm just feeling that there's that residual obligation. He has an active duty not to maneuver facts and also misrepresent them and not just to mislead the country that he's doing. Here's the thing. Insofar as this gold scam or scandal is emerging, and as far as it's concerned, from what has been shared publicly, I mean, the Honorable the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has not been implicated. What Wetangula was saying was that he was going to reach out to Raila Odinga to try and reach out to His Excellency the President so that this matter can be sorted out. And I already called out that as very dishonest on the part of, very alarming and dishonest on the part of Wetangula. And I said, he wasn't there, that it just shows that our politicians have no capacity to take Kenyans seriously. And Kenyans cannot rely on the entire political infrastructure, both from Jubilee and NASA side, to support their own graft, you know. But then what I find depressing, and you know, this is really shocking because you see, people like Cherargei, they're supposed to represent the new vision in Kenya. But you see, what I've observed is this. The new politicians, the younger politicians are getting inducted in an old system, in an old mindset. To be able to endear yourself to the Railas of this world, the Rutos of this world, the Kalonzos of this world, you have to be used as an errand boy. The problem with that is that when these people need sober thinking, they don't come to you. You know, if you build a reputation as a leashdog, that is how they will know you. And when they want, I can tell you, and probably is aware, I have handled Jubilee matters, contrary to popular view out here. And sometimes during an electioneering campaign, when people thought that I was too much on NASA and not respecting Raila and the political NASA infrastructure just because I come from Kisumu region, they don't know that outside political commentary, I handle NASA files. That's a fact. The general public do not know this thing. So the point I'm making is this. This constitution is being sabotaged by the political leadership, and we are relying on new and fresh blood. Cherargei, before he was a very visionary leader, and I used to follow him closely with a lot of support. For sure, he's right when he said when he was entering politics, he meant well. But I fear that, Mheshimiwa, that could it be that you've been co-opted into this system where now you have to amplify whatever Deputy President William Ruto says and not be able to tell him off. That is the same problem that Orengo is also representing. You see, Orengo, just a while back, was supporting the investigative agencies and saying that William Ruto should not attempt to interfere with the investigative agencies. But now, because Malala has been arrested and is allied to the NASA wing, you know, of the political formation, and Senator Orengo and ODM Secretary General Sifuna, they emerged and they, in their press conference, they said, this is politics. You know, you can't, on one hand, argue for the independence of these constitutional organs, and then when it's not convenient for you, you now say they have been captured. Who is capturing them in a very short span of less than 2 months? I think we don't have a stable philosophy. What I'm asking is this. I'm no longer prepared to put emphasis on what comes out of their leadership.
Exactly.
You know, I'm not prepared on that because if it is convenient for political leadership to say one thing, they will say that. I think what is incontestable, I still have my senses, my friend and Honorable Senator Cherargei. I have my senses to think logically. I know the DP is trying to extract political dividend in this. They're trying to invest, they're trying to play politics with this matter because Raila's name was dropped in there. But in so doing, what the harm, the unintended harm, let me call it so, the unintended harm is that in totality, you're actually weakening the credibility of the institutions that are supposed that we will eventually rely on. Remember, this country is not stable at all. Let's not confuse the relative calm and peace that we are enjoying with overall stability, because stability is a function of leadership. Our leadership keeps on oscillating based on convenience. We are heading into an election in less than 3 years, in less than 4 years. After this election, we will need the DPP intact, we will need the DCI intact, we will need the judiciary intact. He may not even be in parliament. At that time, in the Senate, at that time when he's back to ordinary citizenship, he may need to rely on the critical institution that is now decampaigning openly. I think as a way forward, this is the thing. Joy said, and on that matter I agree with Joy, Cyprian, and of course the Senator, the investigative authorities must learn to take time. They must learn to take time. Honestly, there's no justification of arresting an elected leader or any Kenyan whimsically just because you can arrest, only to release them in the evening without preferring charges. To be honest, even if they kept quiet, that honestly is not encouraging, is not consistent with this posture of professionalism. It is not consistent with the posture of independence. It is not consistent with the posture of deepening the rule of law. I hope the police can capture that. I hope DCI can capture that. I hope the DPP can capture that. Number two, in terms of arraigning people in court, I have urged the DPP to take his time. Let him take his time. Let him not respond to political pressure, and let him not latch into political support. The people expressing support to his office, especially the politicians, are the same people that will do about turn and start antagonizing his office. Let him take his time. Number three and the last, the political elite. Just because you are elected and just because you earn money on the taxpayer's account does not mean that you have a monopoly of arrogance, you have a monopoly of intelligence, you have a monopoly. I mean, some of us who are not in elective offices also have the capacity for rational thinking. I think reflect on your statements and reflect on your commitment to your offices, because they saw an oath. Other than the oath of office as an advocate of the High Court, I have never taken an oath to serve the Republic. He has taken an oath. The Deputy President is the President of the Republic of Kenya. I would like to imagine that Kenya has more urgent and depressing problems warranting of his attention. If you find the Deputy President latching into political statements, politicizing criminality, as you've said in that, what do you call that? Information, the caption there, it is really, really sad. But Senator Cherargei, who is a lawyer, has no capacity to tell off the Deputy President. Because he knows if he does that, he'll be suspected of now collaborating with NASA. So he must maintain. I've always urged, and I urge all young politicians, newly elected especially, to find a new pathway. Democracy demands patience, but patience only presupposes some shared and settled level of decency, honesty, uprightness, a sense of shame and responsibility. You can say, listen, even if I'm going to serve as a one-term senator, I am not going to be a sounding board for political rhetoric that do not match the vision ordained by the Constitution. So be it. I don't need to play homage to the Deputy President William Ruto or Raila Odinga or the political elite. Once we have a clean break with that, then Kenyans will begin to have the trust, that you're trying to express in Cherargei. So I think overall, at this level, Kenyans have now been cornered to move away and to look for support elsewhere. I would urge the Central Organization of Trade Unions, COTU, NAT, Kenya National NAT Union of Teachers, the LSK. These are independent, should be independent, dispassionate organizations that Kenyans can rely on for leadership if our leaders are failing us, as they've already done.
Okay, Joy, to encapsulate what Steve had to say, he says democracy presupposes a sense of shame and decency. But do you feel his pain? Do you feel like the political class is really taking us for fools?
On some level, I must agree. Because you listen to the president during his State of the Union address, and he says that the war against corruption shall be fought according to the law, and there will be no sacred cows. We've had it time and time again, zero tolerance. We've had it time and time again that this fight must be won. You've had it from not just the president, even from the opposition. But what comes out from them is almost the exact opposite. I would not be as emphatic as Stephen as to criticize the entire political class, because there are few bright sparks that we see amongst them. There are few people who want to stand out and they want to be counted for something. But majority of them have decided to use their positions as insulation. In fact, it can be argued that in Kenya, you have people who seek political office, not for the sake of serving Kenyans, but for the sake of protecting their own business interests or their own, for influence, to peddle influence, or to be able to benefit from the system generally. And sometimes that is what our problem is. Because if what you went for governor for was to ensure that your biashara goes on uninhibited, then you're not beholden to the voter. You're beholden to your own business interests. If you were a criminal and you know that as a mheshimiwa it's more difficult for you to face justice, you will do everything you can to remain a mheshimiwa for as long as you can. And so if that means you're going to dance like a cat on a hot tin roof, you will. You will dance like a cat on a hot tin roof as long as you can keep that position to keep yourself insulated. I think, and I've said it before, time has come for us to heshimu our waheshimiwa. Just bring them down a few notches from the pedestal that they are on and have common decency, like Stephen says, such that if you are an honorable member of parliament who behaves dishonorably, we should be able to call you out on it. I've said that there's some practices that we have allowed our MPs and our parliamentarians and to get away with that have sort of helped them to get to where we are. Where if there's something that comes, we're not asking ourselves, wait, this is a criminal matter. What is it? In fact, let me not even go down that route. Let's compare ourselves with other jurisdictions. In Japan, there was a train accident. The transport minister resigned. Was he the driver of the train? Did he make the railway track? Why did he resign? Because this was my docket. I ought to have ensured that
Same thing happened in Ethiopia.
That systems are going, and because of that, I failed in my. That is a person who takes public service to heart. Okay. In Kenya, what happens? It is not me. Steve is on was signing the checks. Cyprian was supposed to have checked that signature was correct, and because they didn't do their jobs, ask them. I am the mheshimiwa. Let me sit here and listen to the answer. We need to get to a place where our heshimiwa, if you're going to walk the talk and earn the title, let us see why we are heshimuing you. With what the DP said over the weekend, I would be less quick than Steve to point fingers, because even the ones he was pointing fingers at, I mean, the entire choir right now, everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else. And sometimes when somebody singles out DP, it has to look like it's handshake politics. And that's what you were saying. Is it cheapening the whole thing? Yes, it is.
Okay.
Because once we reduce it to, is this handshake, is this 2022, is this what? We forget that there are criminals walking around us. There are people who have been sold tricycle padlocks, shaved, and you're told that that is gold. And people have gone and taken loans to come and buy. These scammers have scammed even people who had nothing, they had everything to lose. Okay. They stop at nothing. So let us deal with the criminality of it. And if our politicians are the ones who have the audacity to engage in it, I want to see what we saw in Sudan. Politicians stuck in the back of lorries like cows being herded off to go to jail because of what they have done, because of their criminality. Let us be serious in this fight. If we are serious as Kenyans, let us also be serious and love ourselves more. Okay. And hold our leaders to high account.
All right, Cyprian and the good Senator, unfortunately we're running out of time, but I want to give you a minute each just to give us your concluding remarks.
Thank you so much. The politicization of criminality has happened because state institutions have allowed it to be so. The reason why criminality and corruption has continued in this country is because we reward the corrupt. We reward the corrupt in this country. We don't punish them, we reward them. We reward them by appointing them, we reward them by electing them. That is why citizens have to take charge and play their part in re-engineering the state, because this is a collapsed state. This is a failed state. The second point is that the state institutions that we have named here, principally the four, the police and the DCI, the Director of Public Prosecution, the judiciary in this country, and the head of state. There's only one head of state in this country. These officers must perform the functions of their officers. Thirdly, is that the media in Kenya must go back to where it was, as a serious agency that comforts the powerless and makes the powerful uncomfortable. The media and the church in this country, so I've brought in the church, have actually abdicated completely their principal role, which is to comfort the powerless and make the powerful uncomfortable. In this country, there is not one single powerful person who is uncomfortable with the media, because the media has lost its direction. It is not comforting the powerless, and it is not making the powerful uncomfortable.
Okay.
Finally,
I will have to give the Senator his minutes because we've run out of time. You get to have the very last word, Senator.
Thank you very much.
But just quickly, the way you went to the police station to visit Chesa, would you call a press conference to defend somebody who was not in the political class?
I have done severally before, and I will continue doing, because we need the system to do what is the law provides for them. And therefore, it is not about, we are worried that if this can happen to somebody of influence in the society, like even David Kigaria, the MP of Nakuru East, who was roughed up by police and thrown into cells, yet he was released in the evening. So we are worried that if this can happen to somebody, a member of parliament or an influential person or a person of status in the society, what will happen to the ordinary Wanjiku? And that is why we need to stop them at their tracks. Secondly, finally, I want to say this, that as a country, it is not good to lump politicians and say all politicians are bad, because in issue of collective responsibility, as we talk, the people in executive are no longer politicians. They are technocrats. And as politicians, you know, we have reduced the discussion into narrow view how we see our elected leaders, because we are doing a lot in parliament. For example, even as we talk, which is not captured in the public domain or in the as use this as an example as I conclude, there was a time that we differ over the division of revenue, where members of parliament were saying we are cutting money meant for counties to 310 billion. Senate, we have insisted that it should be 335 billion. We are now on mediation stage. We want more money to go to the mashinani. Those are things that, you know, we have used cosmetic discussion to just, because it is easy to trash politicians, not to show even the good things that we are doing. Even Jesus Christ was being crucified, although he was doing good things to the humanity. So I want to urge Kenyans that let us keep faith in our country. We still have a long way to go. And I want to say, even as a country, we have leadership that is already there. You can be politically affiliated to the NASA, you can politically affiliated to the Jubilee, but at the end of the day, all of us are Kenyans that we need to have this honest conversation. One thing I'm happy is that we have given forums Kenyans to express what they think is right, what they think it is important, and let us continue to support the President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee government so that they can deliver on the Big Four agenda. Okay.
Unfortunately, I do have to cut you short there, but the Senator's message to you is keep the faith. Our concern, of course, is the cheapening of issues of criminality by politicizing them, because the members of parliament, the political class in general, can seem to find consensus when it comes to the housing allowance and when it comes to the arrest of prominent politicians. You've had Senator Cherargei and also James Orengo cannot seem to agree when it comes to the fake gold scam and a number of issues, but they seemed to rally together when members of the political class were incarcerated. My name is Olive Burrows. You've been watching NTV Today, and coming up is NTV Sasa.